Thembisa Fakude, who is a senior research fellow at the Africa-Asia Dialogues, and he joins us live now from Doha. Thank you for being with us on the program, sir. I just want to get your assessment on the statements that we're hearing both from Saudi Arabia and the U.S. One is saying that they are abiding by the ceasefire. The other is saying that they're going to put sanctions because they have broken this 7-day-long ceasefire.
Yeah, those are conflicting statements, and of course continues to confuse the people on the ground who are desperate for relief. We know that the medication and all other essential services and goods that are supposed to facilitate the normal life of the Sudanese, particularly those that are in hospitals, are in short and very, very short supply. So whilst the confusing statements are being issued by the negotiators in Saudi Arabia, the people on the ground who are continuing to suffer as a result of this war. But we'll have to wait and see how the threatening statements that have been issued will impact on the ceasefire.
Right, the threatening statements that have been issued, meaning the ceasefires from the sanctions from the United States. How effective do you think those sanctions would be in bringing some sort of peace to the region?
Well, I'm not quite sure whether that language is really helpful at the moment. It's a very high-level language of, instituting ceasefire. Right now, what you want to have is to convince the parties that are involved in this war to go to the negotiating table, and the discussion is to use whatever means. But I don't think that using the threatening statements of ceasefire to people who are not impacted that directly, particularly those that are at the top echelons of power in Sudan, who continue to have normal lives, notwithstanding, of course, that their foot soldiers are fighting on the streets of Khartoum. We have to put other measures to ensure that to facilitate the smooth, at least, flow of essential services. So I don't think that this threatening statement will in any way assist. Instead, we might just see them digging in their heels.
Right, you mentioned the measures. What do you think those measures should be to bring the warring sides to the negotiating table, to not only create humanitarian corridors for the people in need, but to also bring some sort of truce?
Well, I think the first thing to ensure that there is a semblance of peace, they need to pull in these individuals, at least to outside Sudan, particularly General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. They have to be seen to be making this peace. And the first step will be to see them, even though they might appear separately, but outside Sudan. And that, I think, will give some confidence to the people that at least there are, including the foot soldiers, that there are talks that are taking place. But as long as we don't see them nor hear them speaking, we have since been hearing third parties speaking on their behalf, I think the situation will continue to deteriorate.
Right, and it is deteriorating. We are seeing the Sudanese stuck in between crossfighting, which is making the situation for them on the ground much worse. There are shortages of food, water, medical supplies. Where is this going to lead to? How much money and effort is going to be needed to bring some sort of prosperity to Sudan?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer. But of course, Sudan is now taking back thousands of steps backward. As it was before this war, Sudan was not a rich country. Sudan was struggling with its economy that's been sluggish for over the years. It's one of the poorest countries in the world. So you're going to have a Sudan, once again, that's been pushed back, a couple of steps backward in terms of its social, political development and economic development. So it's a sad state of affairs all round for Sudanese. But I think what will be even much more concerning is that the neighboring countries, particularly Egypt, that continues to receive Sudanese coming to that country seeking refuge, will also at some point have their social services stressed because many Sudanese are leaving Sudan. So it's going to become, it's no longer a global war, by the way. I mean, a global conflict is certainly going to be, not the Sudanese conflict, but it's certainly going to be a global conflict that's going to impact all of us. We might just see another Syria in making, where Sudanese begin to walk to different countries, particularly neighboring countries, and flooding other countries in the world seeking refuge, creating another immigration problem in the world.
Let's hope the contrary to that happens. Thembisa Fakude, thank you so much for joining us here on the NewsHour and sharing that analysis with us.